Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman. Now I want to welcome you to, this is a very special edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. As you can see, we are in my car, man. I'm throwing it back old school style because American Horror Story is throwing it back old school style, and it is opening night. Oh, so excited about this season of American Horror Story. I don't even want to waste any time. So pull up a chair, man. Take a seat. You know the drill. We're getting ready to dive in, spoiler free, and then spoiler filled, into American Horror Story 1984, Episode 1. The season premiere tonight, Wednesday, September 18th. It's been a long build-up, a lot of fun trailers and all the stuff that we've seen, all the theories that people have thrown out, multiple killers, like which things from the 80s or different slasher flicks are they pulling from. We all get to start seeing some answers. And I gotta say, man, for this non-spoiler portion of this review, what a killer first episode. You want to talk about doing an 80s-styled slasher television show. You dive right into all the good, juicy stuff you want from an 80s styled slasher flick, man. I mean, a really, really strong opening, man. Like the opening sequence, you're just in there and you're like, it feels like a horror movie open sequence, right? When you get that like flashback to like something that's happened before and you see it and you're like, oh man, it kind of sets the table for where we're going. And it was excellent. Really nice cinematography, camera work. I was like, oh man, I like that concept because it makes you go, it makes you think for a second. So I thought it was a really, really strong opening. Then you get introduced to our main cast of characters, which includes Cody Fern, Billy Lord, and Emma Roberts, and then a couple of these newbies who I'm not yet familiar with their names. And because we're in the car, I forgot to pull up the IMDb page, so we will eventually get to those guys. But you kind of meet our main cast that's going to go up to be camp counselors, and it's basically Cody Fern's character Xavier. I can't tell you all of their names because I did take those notes, but the cast, the group is Xavier, Montana, Ray, Chet, and then Brooke, who's the new girl who's played by Emma Roberts. So Cody Fern's character Xavier is like a jazzercise aerobics instructor. So we kind of start there. We've seen that in the trailers. And you just kind of get introduced to everybody, and everybody's got the role, and all the roles sync up to things that we should be familiar with in the style of an 80s slasher flick. So it's a fun way to get introduced to the group, and I like the kind of chemistry that they're building. And then obviously they head up to the camp, so you get some more time with them in the van. And then once we get up to the camp, man, we set the lore really, really nicely in a way that's very, very familiar to these types of horror stories. So I love that, and that's the thing. Like, there's so many things that you've seen before because they're just paying so much awesome tribute to 80s styled slasher flicks, but they've put some tweaks in, man. There's some nice things that we're going to talk about when we get to the spoiler side that like it's a little bit different, and I like the way it's playing. But yeah, we get the lore, and then if you're going to start strong, right, like with that strong open, but in general, we got some pretty solid first episode kills from our killer, Mr. Jingles, who's the killer that we've heard about in the trailers. So we gotta get that lore, and we get some nice kills. I won't say where or when they take place, but we do get some fun, like slasher style, kills that extremely enjoyable and just make you go. And because I know you're not just here for the non-spoiler review, that's it, man. I absolutely love this first episode. It was really, really strong. But before you go, why don't I give you some of my reactions to some of these kills? Let's check it out. Passy man, take it away. Horror story. Let's go. So psyched. Oh, Mr. Jingles gonna get them. Oh no! Oh no! Oh yeah, I'm here for this. Let's go. Oh, we are going all in. I love it. Oh, that's brutal. Oh, ear trophy. Oh, let's go. Oh. Stomp the head. I tell you, man, I enjoy watching myself. I'm not freaking out in any of those clips, but just oh man, because you saw stuff that I wasn't ready to see, and you got to remind yourself, like, it comes on at 10 o'clock, which is killer late night to do then a review and then get all this stuff up. But, you got that late night because you can get the language and the gore and the stuff that they show. So now that you've seen my reactions, it's time to say goodbye to the non-spoiler portion. If somehow you have not watched episode 1, if you're not watching right at the get-go, you're going to enjoy the non-spoiler portions, but I'm going to ask you to leave now because we're going to crack into this bad boy. I got about a page and a half of notes that are all kind of quick, and we're just going to rip through all of them because I thought this was a really loaded, really, really solid first episode. I was texting my buddy Nico back and forth like during commercials. It's the only thing I enjoy about with commercials and shows like this. I tend to like the just straight, streaming style or HBO style, just one long show, no breaks, but gives you the ability to talk to friends, and the whole time we're just going back and forth like, ooh, I like that, ooh, I like that. So it is spoiler time on American Horror Story, and we're going to start with those kills, man. Those 3, reactions you got to me. It starts with that open, man, and the open is just absolutely genius, and you saw my reaction to when the kill happened, and it's the setup that we've seen in the trailer. You see the girl kind of come up on the other girl's ear and is like, just go with it if it feels right, and you're like, oh man, like they're both gonna die because like they're getting into some sexual stuff. But then curveball, there is a third party there. A guy comes up, and the open starts in 1970, so we're getting the flashback to where Mr. Jingles, because it's Keys Jingle, where his origin comes from. And it's like one of the greatest camp massacres of all time. So this guy comes up, man, he's got like the classic creepy 70s mustache. And I was just like, I love that. But immediately, bad things are going to happen. So, those two start kind of making out. And the girl, who very clearly must be the virgin or innocent type in this situation, finally commits. And like starts to take off her shirt, and the camera is not showing her, it's shooting from her point of view. So she pulls the shirt up, the camera switches, and now you're blocked. You can't see through the shirt, but you hear it. And the minute you hear the noise, you're just like, oh no, what are we gonna see? And what we see is Mr. Jingles has taken a knife that's probably a blade that's gotta be like at least this big. Like, can we fit 2 heads in there? Because that's what they're making up out. So when she gets the clothing off, that knife is through both heads. Thus my reaction. And then we go from there. We see Mr. Jingles take care of her. She gets stabbed through and out the eye and then dragged that way. And then you see, the ear removal. Mr. Jingles collects all the ears, and you see that he's killed the entire cabin of people. And then he was arrested, put into a psychiatric ward, which is, one of those nice nods to the OG slasher stuff, right? We've seen, the most recent Halloween putting, Michael in a cell or in a prison. And a bunch of the Halloweens have done that. So to see, like, we're going to the mental institution where this dude is, and we do get to jump over there. And since we're talking about the kills first, we will jump to where we go to see Mr. Jingles 3 hours earlier. We hear that he broke out. We also in the trailers, for the lead up, we see like a lady driving into the mental facility. We see all the patients on the lawn, and the guy's like, Mr. Jingles escaped and he let everybody out on the way out. And then we flash back to 3 hours earlier, and you see that he's hung himself in his cell. And obviously we know he's not dead. And the ward, the guy who's on duty comes in and like is pushing him and kind of making fun of him because they know who he is. And all of a sudden, like chokes him so hard his eyes start bleeding. I was like, whoa, the second reaction. But the thing, and this is one of the twists that they did, typically these movies never show you the face of the killer. Or if they do, they show it at the end of the movie. We saw that obviously with Jason. both in the first one and the second one, we know that it's not him in the first one. It's actually his mom. But he comes up out of the lake. And so we've seen like bits and pieces of his face. But Halloween never showed the face, which was kind of a new take in the new one where we saw parts of, Michael Myers' face when the new Halloween came out last year. And just all like, I just love seeing that adaptation of stuff. But here they go, nah, man, we're gonna like, yeah, we've seen him in the raincoat, right? Like at the opening, that's what we see, and that's kind of that reference to like the raincoat jacket that we've seen and things like I Know What You Did Last Summer. But here, no, we're not gonna hide his face. You're gonna know who Mr. Jingles is right from the get go, because we live in a world of like IMDb, and if he's not wearing a mask, we know who the actor is, and the actor is a known actor, so you're gonna show his face, and they do. They show you who Mr. Jingles is right away, and I like that take, because he can still put on that persona, and you can still get all those looks and feels of things like that, but we know it's him, which I think, we saw like in the previews for next week. Pretty much everything is him, and I think that's probably the first 6 episodes. I do think there are some multiple killer actions going on here, and some of the other characters, like Leslie Grossman, maybe might be involved in some way, if we're seeing all these nice odes, and we'll get there. But I want to finish with these kills. Obviously, the last one that we see is when he gets out. He goes to the gas station mechanic guy, who at the beginning, when the counselors are coming up to get gas, tells him, "You going up to Camp Redwood? No, you gotta get out of here, man. Like, run, leave, get out." Well, that's where Mr. Jingles goes next, and he's working underneath the car, and you could tell. We're going to throw it back to the past scene one more time, because he was able to predict the future. Check it out! Yep, definitely got to drop the car on him. Yep, called that one. As you see, it was spot on. I mean, look, they're telegraphing some of these things because they're paying tribute to the fact that these slasher movies are kind of predictable, but the fact that they can put little tweaks and stuff in. So he drops the car on him, which is a classic maneuver. So the minute he was underneath, I was like, oh, he's definitely going to drop the car on him. Boom, he does, and we get, some fun kills to start things off, and some good scares. And it's like I said, like I like what they did. So now we're gonna rip through these notes in order. After we meet like our main group, you kind of learn that Emma Roberts' character, Brooke, is kind of the newbie, and she's crushing on the stud named Chet. And like during the jazzercise lesson. Class, there it is, class. When they all basically find out that Xavier is the one that's going up. He's like, yeah, they need people, like everybody should come with, and they're trying to convince her. And what we've heard is that there's going to be like there's an escaped crazy person on the loose in Los Angeles, which is where they are, and they're saying it's gotta be like the summer of sand, like you gotta get out of town, and everyone's like, all right, we'll go, but Brooke's got commitments to school and whatnot, so she doesn't go. And that night, she actually gets attacked by said guy. Now, in the moment, I thought that it was maybe the group putting him up to, like, putting some guy up to it just to scare her into going with them. But I guess that would be a long, stretch for somebody they just met. And we end up seeing him later on, and I guess it confirms that it actually happened. But it just seems so easy, right? Like, he came in, he was looking for jewelry, he doesn't kill her, which is like, if you're a serial killer, why aren't you doing it? And when he's getting ready to, she hits him over the head with a frying pan, and then all of a sudden the guy's like, someone outside is like, are you okay? Cops are coming. And the dude leaves. So I thought it was fake, but he appeared at the end, and he's still following her. So either that guy that they hired is crazy, or it is actually the Night Stalker, and he's gone to Camp Redwood now. So you could have 2 serial killers up there. But I did like that sequence. Like, she wakes up, and he just kind of pops on her, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And that kind of gets her to go along with everybody. I loved at one point there's some bickering going on between the guys, and I think it's Ray goes, eat my shorts, which is a Simpsons reference. Which was created in the 80s, and like I said, this is obviously set in 84, but I think they're just acknowledging all sorts of 80s reference. So Eat My Shorts would be a nod to The Simpsons, which debuted in 89, despite this being 84. But I heard that, and I was like, oh, nice! I like that. Like, as a Simpsons fan, I enjoyed hearing, someone other than Bart Simpson say Eat My Shorts, and like I said, a nice nod to something that was created in the 80s. Then a weird thing with Xavier, when they get to the gas station, after the guy's like, you guys should leave, he goes off to make a phone call. It sounds like he's calling one of his buddies back home. Can't really make out entirely what he's trying to call for, but the answer machine goes to click on, and then a voice comes on, and it's like, it's almost like the "I know what you did last summer" guy, but he's like, you can't run away from me, I'm gonna get you. And then they cut away, and then he doesn't really react the way you think he would. Like, what? Who are you? Like, he just kind of listens to it, and it was strange. So I don't know if that's like part of the voicemail, or if, I don't know, maybe something weird is going on with Cody Fern, but it was an odd reaction for him to just kind of be like, and he didn't really freak out or anything. So that was something that I thought was interesting. But obviously, they don't listen to the gas station mechanic guy. They take off. And then I saw something I've never seen in any form of media. Like, typically when you're distracted, in these scenes, like I Know What You Did Last Summer, like they're partying and drinking, and they're kind of doing back and forth like this. This isn't even conversation like we missed and hit this dude. 1 minute Cody Fern is driving, and then they cut to like the back seat, and then they come back this way, and Ray is sitting next to him, and he's hitting the bong, or maybe it's Chet sitting next to him hitting the bong, and Xavier is lighting it like this, like all of a sudden, Billy Lord's character, Montana's like, "Look out!" And that's when they hit the guy. It looks kind of like a hippie dude that's clearly been out in the woods. He's got cuts and stuff all over his hands that aren't from the hit. And right before he passes out and they put him into the van to take him up to the camp to try to get help, he goes, I tried. Like, I tried my very best type of a deal. And you're like, I tried. So I'm thinking right away, like, something else is going on just besides Mr. Jingles. Because why is this guy running around the woods? And he seemed just completely confused and lost. We get up there, eventually we come back around to him, and he wakes up, and one of the things we learn about the Mr. Jingles lore is he takes the ears, and all of a sudden he wakes up from his bed and goes like this, is like and his ear is missing. And then the next thing Emma Roberts' character Brooke is running away, and she comes in, and you see a door swing, and you're like, oh my gosh, Jingles is in there. And no, it's the dude. He's up on the door that swings closed, dead. So it's gonna be hard to figure out why he had all these cuts and things on his hand, and why he was in the woods, and what he was trying his best to do, because Jingles hadn't gotten out at that point, at least not that I knew, unless he maybe was coming from there in the 3 hours, maybe. But I don't know. So that is a mystery that we've been given that maybe we'll solve. But the other thing that I loved is when they got up to the camp, they meet Boss Lady Leslie Grossman, and she is part of the duo. Her and the nurse they hired for the summer tell the story of Camp Redwood and why it was shut down, and the fact that they're trying to get it reopened. They talk about this massacre. But when we see Grossman, if you pay attention, they stay on a wide shot on her, and her socks look like they have blood splatter on them, and then there's a lot of red on her boots, which kind of looks like blood. And then we kind of get a little bit of a different look later. We can tell it's red shoelaces. And I thought maybe it was an embroidery, or part of the sock was supposed to be kind of dotted, but it still didn't look like it was completely there. I don't know. But even if it is on purpose, that could also be a hint. I have this sneaky suspicion that Leslie Grossman is going to be that character that hasn't told you all of the story, because we find out during the lore, the nurse starts telling the story about what we saw at the beginning, 97. Mr. Jingles tells you who he is. He worked there. He was kind of disturbed. One night he goes crazy, kills this whole cabin, says 10 people. And Leslie Grossman goes up. It's like, no, 9. Because she survived, and she lifts up her thing. That's the ear we see cut off at the beginning. And mind you, gore galore, right? This 10 o'clock slot, man, when that ear gets cut off, so much blood. And that's another thing with 80s slasher flicks, an overabundance of fake blood, which I love. But there were also some really nice shots too. When she's telling the story about being there, she basically says I left my body and an angel was holding me, and by the grace of God, I had left my body but wasn't dead. So when he cut my ear, I didn't move, and then went back down, and that's how she survived. But there's a shot of her in this massive bodies, and it's right here, and the blood splatter on her face and her eyes bloodshot. Absolutely gorgeous. I just love stuff like that. But like I said, really cool lore for him. And like I said, it's one of those things where if you've watched enough horror movies, especially slasher flicks, a lot of times the so-called victim has been turned. We've seen that in Scream, as one example. Not the first one, but eventually down the road, like, people turn that you don't think. And so that could be one of those things where maybe Leslie Grossman is the person that's going to be helping Mr. Jingles. That's my first take right out the gate. One of my theories we'll throw out there. We'll see how that plays. But I love the story that we know his name, Benjamin Richter, and that it's a campfire story, like classic way to introduce the lore. And then, like I said, I like that we know his name, and since we know his name, I like that we see his face later on when he does break out. Then, let's see. So, after Mr. Jingles... It's tough sometimes when you're all over the place, kind of scan real quick. But after Mr. Jingles does get out, we get kind of a look into like his room, and we see that he's got this newspaper clipping. He's got this newspaper clipping about Camp Redwood reopening, and front on the page is a picture of the original people, and on one of the people, blonde, is circled. Mr. Jingles is coming back for Leslie Grossman. So, I don't know, man. I'm interested to see how all these things play out, because that obviously is setting up like he's coming for the revenge because she got away and he figured it out. But I don't know. I have a weird suspicion about her too. So I'm interested to see where they go and how they play with that. But that's one of those things where you're like, maybe not. And that's what you got to do when you're doing these types of things. You want people to be second guessing and guessing about things, because some of this stuff is really, really telegraphed on purpose. But you kind of want to try to misdirect and maybe fool some people. So we'll see what happens. I'm firing on like all crazy cylinders with all the different things that they could be pulling from, not just from the 80s. Also, so after he kills the mechanic, he does get up to the place and chases Brooke. She goes to find a bandage because Chet crushes a can and throws it at Ray, and Ray puts up his hand and cuts it. She goes to try to help him, and Ray goes back, and she's left alone, and she's like looking at something, and all of a sudden he's there, and then he starts chasing her. And what's awesome is that Mr. Jingles, he's not a Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. He's not walking after you in a menacing way. He's running after you, and I like that, man. It's another thing that produce the real terror. If the guy's chasing after him, if you know your character's running away, they're not safe for a moment, and then maybe he shows up. So I really enjoyed that, and they played with the fact that already Brooke might be crazy. She gets all covered in mud, comes running in. He's here, Mr. Jingles is here. And then when they kind of go to what she thought she saw, there's a rain jacket on a coat hook rack thing, and they're like, oh, there's your killer. And then you think you see him again, and this is why I think Leslie Grossman's gonna have a serious tie to him the whole show, which obviously is the case, but I think it could be different, because then you see a hooded figure standing there, and you're like, oh shoot, it is him. And she steps in, it's Leslie Grossman. Why are we doing that? Maybe it's a double, kind of like Jason Voorhees in the first Friday the 13th, where it's his mom, even though we thought it was him. So maybe it's one of those types of things going on. I don't know. My spidey senses are tingling in that bit. But I really enjoyed that he runs. I think that's cool. And we also learned that Chet got bounced from the Olympics, so they're watching the opening Olympics. And what's nice is they sync up Brooke running into the cabin with the guy carrying the torch up to the cauldron and lighting it. And as he lights it, she comes running into the room. Really, really nice stuff. It's not just good slasher content. We're getting really nice cinematography, nice camera shots, good story building. This first episode is rock solid. One of the best premiere episodes of any of the seasons I think we've had this far, because it just throws you right into what you want it to throw you into, and it feels exactly like we were hoping, an 80s style slasher, story is going to feel like. So I just love all those classic things, like making her crazy and, killing the virgins and all these things, so we can kind of see some things. But like I said, I think they're keeping us on our toes better than we know. And the last thing that I really noticed as we were going is when she comes in and wakes up Montana has a knife in her hand immediately, and she's just like, I'm a jumpy person. So I like everywhere we're going. I like what I think is in store for this season. Like I said, I'm a sucker for slasher flicks, especially the ones that started in the 80s and all. I just love that genre. So this season is geared towards me specifically, but it's going to be interesting to see what it's like without Evan Peters for the first time. And we're not going to have a major role from Sarah Paulson. Maybe she pops in a cameo sense. I'm sure she'll probably direct or produce at some point this season. But like, we're not going to get a lot of her. We're not going to have Kathy Bates. A lot of the people that we've relied on are not there. Now we're relying on Billy Lord, Emma Roberts, and Cody Fern. And I feel very comfortable leaning on those three plus Leslie Grossman that have been there before with this new cast. So like I said, I like what I'm getting from the vibe of the group. The group is enjoyable. They have all the stereotypical characters. You got your jock, you got your token black guy, you got your hot leader, you got like, he's like not hot as Chet, but like, he's cool. You got Billy Lord, who looks like she's kind of a slut. There's another counselor on site who's got a massive junk. And talks about kind of like being in a movie, but then like was cut out of the movie, and they kind of go to do some stuff in the lake, and Billy Lord sees like a pair of headlights watching them, and that's when we see, not too long after that, the Night Stalker shows up. So this other guy who has the mustache as well. They're gonna have a camp counselor. One of them has to have a mustache. But they pay like a lot of attention to the fact that he's got a big. I bet you he loses that at some point this year. Like, you don't make that big a deal. It's the Theon Greyjoy theory, man, right? Like, that guy ran his mouth all the time about the size of his piece. And what happened to Theon Greyjoy? Spoilers, during his torture, it got cut off. They paid so much attention to the fact that it's, like, his story includes the fact that he's got a big piece. I think that was one of those things that me and my buddy Nico were texting back and forth, like, he's texting. I was like, dude, I was literally just about to say that to you. So there you go. I think that's it. I think I covered all the things I wanted to cover. That is my spoiler part of the American Horror Story episode 1. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm really psyched. Like I said, during Comic-Con, the 1984 experience was the best experience of the entire thing. It was scary. It gave you such a vibe that matches the vibe of what the show was. So like what I picked up on there and some of the things I saw or thought I saw, matching the feel and the vibe of the show, which is so cool to have an experience and then watch the show and be like, that fits so perfectly with what they were doing there. I'm just super stoked for the season. But there you go, man. Those are all of my thoughts. We did the non-spoiler. I hope if you stuck around, you watched it. If you didn't, what's wrong with you? And through the spoiler stuff, I hope you enjoyed it, man. There was a lot, like I said, they packed a lot in that first episode, but it was a lot of fun. We got some good, like I said, we got some solid kills, and it set a real tone about what the gore and the blood and how this season is going to go. And if the next 9 episodes are as fun, or next 11 episodes, if it's 12, I don't know if this is a 10 or 12 episode season this year, but if they're as fun as this one, I think this is going to be an extremely enjoyable year. So those are all my thoughts on American Horror Story 1984, the season premiere, episode 1. Now I want to know what you're thinking, man. What did you think of the first episode? Are you a fan of slasher flicks? Were you super stoked going into this season? Do the missing cast members that are there for their first time, like Evan Peters and some of the others that have come in and out, does that worry you? How much do you like the new cast? What are you feeling? What's your vibe? What things are you liking about the kills? What was your favorite one? For me, it was definitely the opening sequence. You saw that reaction. One more time. You guys love a reaction. Oh, Mr. Jingle's gonna get them. Oh, no! Oh, no! Oh, yeah, I'm here for this. Let's go. Oh, we are going all in. I love it. Oh, that's brutal. I love when I'm like, oh, man. But yeah, like, let me know everything you're thinking about the episode, what you liked and didn't like, and what you're looking forward to as we move forward. See, and let me know the preview that they showed. Do you think if that's most of the first half of the season, or if they showed us stuff from the whole bit? But everything you're thinking, down below in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old Seaman every Wednesday night during American Horror Story 1984. We're going to do it every single night, even though it's like 11 by the time I finish. It'll be like 12:30, 1 o'clock by the time everything's up. We're going to do it every week. And if for some reason I can't make an episode or we got to push the drop, I will let you guys know. But we will look to get these up as fast as always. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you can get alerts when I drop American Horror Story content. And you can watch along with me, and hopefully we'll do a live stream for the finale like we did last year. So there you go, man. Do all those things for me. For the Seaman Cinema Sit Down. Good to be back in the car in American Horror Story mode. I'm so pumped for this season. I, of course, am the Seaman, and I am signing off, man. Peace! Okay. That didn't work because I got the lights in the it's just not gonna. We're just peace, guys. Well, I'll be. You guys are still here. You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. Seaman's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the Seaman goodies, join the Cinema Sit Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.